What makes a game truly memorable? Some titles we play through once, and that's enough. The impressions are intense, the ending is powerful, and we don't want to go back. But there are also games that we dive into again and again, as if they were endless. What distinguishes one type from the other? The answer lies in the concept of replayability. Replayability isn't just the ability to play a game again, it's when you really want to do it. You come back not because you have to, but because it's interesting. This design allows each new playthrough to reveal something new, be it plot nuances, mechanics, or even emotional experiences. Replayability as a goal. Why return to the game again? Games where mechanics are more important than the plot often get a second life, thanks to their structure. They are designed for replayability. For example, difficulty levels, achievements, bonus missions, hidden secrets. These are not just add-ons, they are the main way to prolong the enjoyment of playing. It is important that such elements are not artificially added. When it is obvious that additional activities are just a way to stretch the time, the enjoyment of the game is lost. It's like a dish where instead of the main ingredient, they put in a lot of cheap garnish. Game cycle and sense of progress. In well-designed projects, each new playthrough is a growth experience, not numerical progress, but mental progress. You learn, adapt, and act with more confidence. This is where true replayability comes from. It's not about repetition, it's about development. In some games, you no longer feel like a novice, but an expert in the world. When you return to them, you don't just replay, you explore from a new angle. And that's a value you can't buy with bonus content. Why some games are tedious when replayed. Too often, additional tasks become a mechanical routine. Kill 10 enemies, find 50 items, complete 100 side quests. These quests sometimes slow down the pace, turning an exciting journey into a daily quest from a mobile game. It's important for the player to understand, why are they doing this? The best games don't drag on, they inspire you to dive back in. If every element is part of the overall idea, it works for the player, not against them. Replayability should be a natural continuation of the experience, not an artificially created necessity. Multiplayer and co-op. When replayability becomes endless, online gaming is a different story. Here, replayability is based not on content, but on people. Each new session is unique. You don't go through a script, you participate in improvisation. However, such games also have their drawbacks. Losing your team or friends can completely discourage you from playing. Cooperative games are the perfect compromise. In them, you don't play against each other, but together. It's about support, interaction, and overcoming obstacles together. Even simple mechanics turn into an adventure when you share them with someone else. When a game is more than just a game, some games become outdated but remain beloved. The reason is not the graphics or mechanics, but how they made us feel. And when such projects are given a second wind, through patches, updates, remasters, it is perceived as a gift. Remasters and remakes are an opportunity to relive those emotions, but it's important to remember that not everything new is better than the old. Sometimes in the pursuit of modernity, the atmosphere of the original is lost. The task of developers is to preserve the spirit of the game while updating its form. When the plot is the main thing, but you still want to come back. Games with a linear storyline are rarely designed with multiple playthroughs in mind. In them, all the emotional charge is concentrated in the first playthrough. You follow the plot, experience the twists and turns, and are surprised by the ending. However, the second time around is not the same. You know what will happen. The plot loses its element of surprise, and the game feels like a theatrical production that you have already seen. But everything changes if the developers give the player tools to control their experience. Skip cutscenes, speed up dialogues, change the style of playthrough. Then even a linear project gets a chance to be rediscovered, not as a new work, but as an alternative view of a familiar story. Roguelikes and Souls-like games. In these worlds, everything is based on knowledge. There is a special category of games where the key to progress is not leveling up, but understanding. In these games, every step forward is the result of your learning, not your character's level. We are talking about Souls-like games, roguelikes, and intellectual puzzles. Take Souls-like games. You die, you learn, you try again. It's not just replayability, it's a cycle. These games are revealed through pain, but it is precisely this pain that makes victory truly sweet. Even after collecting all the achievements, you realize that you can play differently, you can get through it faster, with fewer losses, or just try a different build. One playthrough games. When replaying is no longer the same. Some titles create such a unique experience that any replay no longer evokes the same excitement. Outer Wilds is a prime example. It's a game where progress isn't tied to weapons or armor. The only thing you gain is knowledge. You find the code to a door on one planet and a way to open a restricted area on another. It's not a game about leveling up. It's a game about understanding the world. On your first playthrough, you are thrilled by every discovery. Everything is new, everything is surprising. But the second time around, you already know what's coming. The magic disappears. That's why these games are called first-time games. They are not replayed, they are remembered. That's why they are so valuable. Puzzles as a path to the inner self. Games like The Witness, Fez, and Gorogoa are not just logic puzzles. They are visual, auditory, and emotional journeys. Their meaning is not tied to complexity, but to the insights you gain in the process. These games don't just give you the right answer, they make you figure it out for yourself. That's why a lot is lost when you replay them. You already know the solution, you don't need to look for it. And that turns the game into a soulless mechanism. But the first time around, you experience what you come to video games for: the feeling of discovery, the feeling of the mind's victory over chaos. When it's not the length that matters, but the mark you leave. Not all games have to be long to be memorable. A 3-hour story can leave a bigger mark than a 100-hour epic. The main thing is how it is presented, the atmosphere, the story, the emotions you experience. Even a short but vivid experience can make you want to relive it if it was sincere and profound. This includes projects such as Inside, Journey, and Firewatch, small but powerful. Sometimes you come back to them a year later, not for the novelty, but to relive what made you different. Collections, achievements, challenges, why are they needed? Many developers add a bunch of goodies to the game for replayability, hidden items, trials, secrets. But all this only works when it doesn't violate the essence of the game. If collectibles are just statistics, they quickly become tiresome. But if each of them reveals a part of the lore, adds atmosphere, or reveals new details, then it's valuable. Additional content should be a continuation of the game, not a replacement for it. Otherwise, it turns into mechanical work that you want to escape from. Remakes and remasters, a chance for a second life or a replacement for the original. Many studios today are re-releasing their hits. Sometimes this is done for the sake of fresh graphics, sometimes to introduce a new generation to the classics, but it's important not to overdo it. A remake can become a completely new game, and that's fine if the soul of the original is preserved. But if key elements of the atmosphere are removed, it can kill the whole charm. For example, changes to the color palette, presentation style, and music all affect perception. Therefore, developers must remember that technical updates are not the goal, but a tool for preserving heritage. When the game world is self-sufficient, games like Elden Ring or Red Dead Redemption 2 are titans in the world of content. They don't just offer dozens of hours of gameplay, they breathe life. It's easy to get lost in these projects, following a bird or responding to a cry from behind a hill. The main campaign here is only part of the story. The rest of the world exists in parallel, and you can dive into it head first. However, even despite their size, these games allow you to get a full experience in one playthrough. Once you've completed the story, you can call it a day and be satisfied. This is a sign of mature design, when the player doesn't need to scour every corner to feel a sense of completion. Second look, why go back? Sometimes replaying is not about the content, but about understanding. The second time around, you see what you missed. You notice a turning point in the dialogue that you didn't understand before. You catch a detail in the music or visuals that hints at a plot twist. This experience not only gives you pleasure but also respect for the work of the writers. After all, you see that everything in the game has been thought out. Replaying is not routine but depth. The plot is the most difficult part to replay. Still, even with all their advantages, story-driven games have one drawback: the inability to make the plot new. Cutscenes, dialogues, twists, all of this is predictable when repeated. And if the game doesn't allow you to skip dialogues or offer new choices, the second playthrough can turn into a boring routine. Ideally, developers should offer tools for flexible playthroughs. Even better, add variability. Let the game feel different the second time around. A different style, different consequences, a different pace. Games that cannot be played the same way twice. There are games in which each playthrough is unique. It's not just a different tactic, it's a new path. Games with procedural generation, non-linear plots, and open worlds allow you to play the game over and over again, each time in a new way. Examples include Hades, Slay the Spire, Disco Elysium, and Baldur's Gate 3. They not only allow but also encourage diversity. The game does not punish you for a different style. On the contrary, it reveals itself from a new angle. This is the highest level of game design. The main thing is the growth of the player. In fact, replayability is not about the game, it's about you. You come back not only to see other mechanics, you want to understand yourself, how you have changed, what you have learned, how your perception has changed. You enter a familiar world with new eyes, and you see that you yourself have changed. This is what makes replayability so important, because it doesn't just give you content again, it shows you how you've grown. Conclusion: what makes a game unforgettable? A good game is one that you want to play at least once. An excellent game is one that you want to play again, and a great game is one that you return to in your mind even years later. Replayability is not just numbers, not just repetition. It is a form of love for the world you return to again and again, and it is precisely this feeling, when the credits roll and you think, "I would like to play it again." That is the magical moment that makes a game immortal. Each of us remembers at least one game that we would like to erase from our memory so we could experience it again. And even if that's impossible in reality, replayability is our bridge to that very moment of initial wonder. It's not just interest that lives in it. Nostalgia, knowledge, and love for the game live in it too.